Thank you very much, Harsha, and good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure presenting today at this particular event. As Harsha mentioned, I have presented before, earlier, 2 years ago, and that was also quite an interesting event. And today, the whole idea or the topic is to get active, fit, and healthy. Before I get into the presentation itself, I would like to actually give a quick introduction about the foundation, which is Ajmal Samuel Foundation, which actually very conveniently, thank you very much, Harsha. Harsha's already introduced the foundation, so I don't really need to go into detail, but I'll just repeat what she said, that the Ajmal Samuel Foundation was established, it's called ASF, was established to make a positive impact to create a world in which all people can use sporting endeavors to achieve their goals and secure a deep sense of pride, accomplishment, and confidence. So ASF wishes to encourage inclusivity amongst all, able-bodied, disabled, professional, and amateur, young and old, to pursue physical and emotional well-being for healthy living. So this is just the introduction about the organization, and you can see the URL here. So you can actually go here, ajmalsamuelfoundation.com, and find out more information. So next I'll go into giving a very brief introduction about myself, who is actually the founder for the Ajmal Samuel Foundation. So after a road accident in 1987, yeah, it's been a very, very long time, almost 35 years or so. While serving in the Pakistan Armed Forces, I was rendered paraplegic. Yeah, I was 21 years at that particular juncture in life. And I also believed that that was, at that particular time, it was end of my active sporting life, and being confined in the wheelchair, and also trying to struggle to be optimistic about life, trying to figure out what is the future going to be. That was those struggles and that particular journey which I had to take on at that particular point in time. It was like from the support of my family and friends and the doctors who motivated me to not give up and to move on. And slowly and painfully, I got back onto the road of recovery. And that is, it's actually, I can say the road of recovery is almost like 35 years. I have constantly been on that road of recovery. So with hard work and determination, I have reshaped my life, and I am now settled in Hong Kong for almost 30 years. And I professionally also, I did okay, and I ended up becoming the CEO of a well-known brand in Hong Kong. And that was in 2009, I gave up the whole corporate life and I started my own business. And since 2009, I have my own financial technology business in Hong Kong. But that was just taking care of my professional side. And then of course, I'm also a very big believer in fitness. I will talk a little bit later on in my presentation. I'm a big believer in fitness and health, and how actually I transcended. I moved from that life of being in a wheelchair and being not very active, not very fit, to a point that actually I can call myself, not I can, but I am an endurance athlete, and I represent Hong Kong in various sports, especially in rowing, hand cycling, and triathlons. Okay. So some of the things which really make me happy, that's the reason I'm here talking to you guys also, is the very fact that actually I can get the message across to some of the younger generation and to some of other people who need this particular help, and act as a role model to let them understand the journey and the pain and difficulties one has to go through to get to that point where I am today, and which I'll be sharing with you a little bit more. So this was a little bit of information about me as a founder of Ajmal Samuel Foundation, ASF. Hopefully you get a better idea of what I'm trying to achieve, what I'm trying to do. So now, after my personal story, let's get started on to today's topic. Okay. So as I was told that I need to talk about getting active, fit, and healthy. So the first thing actually, when you start talking about, it can be anybody. It can be somebody who's physically challenged. It can be somebody who's able-bodied and perfectly okay. Everybody faces a problem and or a challenge, and they say, okay, the first thing is, can we do it? Or really, would it be difficult for us to do it, or can't we do it? Or we can't do it, okay? So it's really, sometimes it's not that easy to get over that hurdle whereby one can say that, okay, I am wanting to get fit, and what are the reasons why I should get fit and healthy, okay? There are physical aspects to it, and there are psychological aspects to it as well. And the people who live, especially, actually, this is especially to the people who live with some sort of a disability or who have some medical issues or medical problems. It's even more difficult to get to that point and to decide, okay, not only decide, to get over that hurdle in which you can say, okay, I want to get fit, but no, I can't because I do not know how to get fit or what to do to get fit. So this is something which we all go through, okay? But at the same time, let's just look at some of the important things or the importance of getting fit, okay? So I just listed some very high level 3 things, which from my point of view in my life have played an important part. First of all, fitness helps with physical wellness. Okay, so here I will give you a little bit of background about my life and some examples of my life, why I can say that physical wellness is very important, which comes or derived from being fit, or vice versa as well. So actually, as I mentioned earlier, in 1987, I had my accident and I was confined to a wheelchair. And not only being confined, I think it would be fair to say that being confined to the wheelchair because the accident was a very minor problem, or one of the small little things, after effects of that particular accident. The bigger things which I had to deal with were very different. They were my health issues, they were my psychological issues, those type of things which were more important, which I need to overcome. And from that point of view, physical wellness played a very important part, and of course fitness also plays an important part. Let me share a small little example here. When I had my accident, one of the after effects which I had to deal with on a constant daily basis was chronic pain in my lower limbs, okay? And that chronic pain was so bad that I would be sitting and talking to people or in a conversation or socially going out, and I would actually pass out. So you can imagine the extent of that chronic pain which I had to deal with to start with. So once you have that chronic pain, how are you going to actually get to the point that you are going to start thinking about fitness? It doesn't happen, okay? And now to make things even more complicated, the doctors, they put me on a huge doses of opioids just to make sure that I could cope with the pain. So that's where things even got more complicated. And then, but at the same time, I had to, my health started to decline big time. So here it's important to, I started thinking, well, before my accident, I was a very fit person. I was an officer in the armed forces, and my health was perfectly okay. Now what has happened? So actually, at the end of the day, whatever situation we are in, physical wellness is very, very important. I'll tell you little in the next slide how actually to get over with and how to actually, how I did that and how I moved on with getting fit. Now, the second thing, which I think is very important, is the emotional wellness as well. So amongst these couple of challenges or things which we really think about when we start talking about fitness, first of all, of course, wellness, and then second, physical wellness, and then emotional wellness. It's also very important for us to have a healthy life. We need to be emotionally well off. We need to be happy. Otherwise, just being physically or emotionally, all of these things go together. So emotional wellness is also very important. And also emotional wellness itself is derived from fitness, from being fit. This is again my own personal experience. The more fit I am, the more participatory in different sports, etc., the more alive I feel, the more connected I feel to everybody else. So emotional wellness also is derived from physical fitness. So the next one is psychological wellness. So actually, psychological wellness is also almost something similar, whereby to emotional wellness, but at the same time, here I'll tell you a few examples. It's also about achievement. Psychological wellness is also about achievement. What can you achieve out of once you get fit? Okay. So when I gave you an example of me in the physical fitness wellness area, I gave an example of me having problems with chronic pain. And then how I did get over that. I still have the pain, but I got over the whole opioids. I stopped everything. So while doing that, which I'll touch a little bit more in detail, I started off my fitness regime with going on Bowen Road. And I'm sure the audience today from Hong Kong, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And they know Bowen Road, okay? They would know Bowen Road in mid-levels. So that is the place where I started getting fit. I was obese, I was fat, literally. And I was in a wheelchair where I couldn't even push for a couple of 100 meters. And I started my journey by pushing on Bowen Road to the point those couple of kilometers on Bowen Road ended up being thousands of kilometers. In 2019, I did 3,000 kilometers in 37 days or so from Beijing to Russia. I handbike. So that was the start. I couldn't even have imagined doing something like this if I would not have started on Bowen Road. So that also the confidence and the gratification which comes from all of these things, seeing the progress, it also brings about the psychological wellness. These are three things which I think are very important to, in making sure that fitness, what is the importance of keeping fit? Okay, now let's just go quickly to the challenges of keeping fit. Okay, and I think this is where most of us are bogged down with the enormity of this particular effort of being fit. Of course, the first challenge we all face, it's very hard to get motivated. Okay, and I'll just read out the three, and then I'll explain one by one. And then, of course, it's hard to get into a routine. First of all, you need to get motivated. Then you need to get into a routine to actually stay fit. And it's hard to be patient to actually see the results. We all face this. We say, okay, we are going to go to the gym. We are going to do something, get into exercise, but the results never happen because we are never consistent, or we are not really at it for a long time, what is required. So going to the first point, it is hard to really get motivated. So actually, again, I'll give a little bit of my example. So I talked about pain as an anchor, that this is what I suffer from. And I was suffering from really bad, in a bad way to start with, when I had my accident. So just imagine, even till today, I have this chronic pain. But at the same time, I am an extreme sports person, and I am an endurance athlete, and I participate on the national, international level, and international and national levels, representing Hong Kong. So I can tell you, without hiding or without anything, in the morning, for me to just get out of my bed is almost impossible. It is, I am in so much pain that I would say, forget it, I'm not good. But it is the motivation. You have to be motivated, and because you can see the results, you have to be motivated. I motivate myself. I say, okay, if I get out, if I'm going to do my 40, 50K in the morning and go out and do my training, the way I will feel for the whole day is going to be very different compared to if I just stay in bed and say, okay, I'm having pain, I'm not doing anything. It's going to be a different story altogether. So that's one other thing which I utilize, or I can give you an example for motivation. So next thing about routine work. Okay, so a routine, how to get into a routine. So of course it's hard to get into a routine, but at the same time, it's important, it's imperative for us to actually, when we are thinking of what the reward, what is the challenge of keeping fit, challenges of keeping fit, routine. Okay, we need to improvise. We need to figure out what do we do to actually stay interested, stay committed in that particular routine, because fitness requires routine. And one needs to be, when you start doing certain amount of, certain type of training, certain type of exercise, etc., what happens is at the end of the day, you start realizing that you are getting something in return. And that is the time, it's a chicken and egg thing, but that's the time when you figure out, okay, now if I can continue doing this, I can get into a routine because the rewards are something which I can look at and really want to look at because it's good. It takes me to a good place, and that's the reward. Of course, the next point would be, it's hard to be patient to see the results. Of course, we all say, okay, I'm going to go to hit the gym, I'm going to do it continuously, but no, we sometimes lose, and that is lose interest. And that is also something which is important. I gave you an example earlier on that actually, as a matter of fact, I was really overweight, okay? I was unfit before I started my routine or my fitness regimen. And I can also tell you, I mean, I'll share with you why I got into this fitness craze and how it actually ended up where I am today. So when I mentioned that I ended up becoming the CEO of organization in Hong Kong, well-known organization in Hong Kong, a company in Hong Kong. That is a time I realized that, okay, if I'm going to be on opioids, I have worked so hard to get to that point. But if I do not continue be persistent and have continuity into what I'm doing, and if I even falter at one place, I'm going to go down. All my hard work for many years just going to finish. And that's why that's when I decided I have to get rid of my opioids. I have to get rid of my pain. Although I did a lot of research, I was not able to get rid of my pain, but I was able to figure out how to get rid of opioids and how to actually learn how to deal with pain. And guess what? What was the lesson how to deal with pain? That was fitness. And that's really, till today, I deal with pain because I am fit. So I think let's go to the next point without any. Okay. So now looking at what are the rewards of keeping fit, I'll just quickly go through this one as well, this slide as well. Of course, we look at new adventures, we look at new friends, we look at new strengths, capabilities we get. For example, in new adventures, for me, I had never dreamed that I would be scuba diving, I would be deep water diving, I would be diving with sharks. That's one of the things I do regularly and I enjoy it. I never imagined that I would actually make friends with the top elite athletes in the world. Not only make friends, I would be one of them and I'll be hanging out with them. It's never ever came upon me that that would happen. Yeah, that happened because of fitness, okay? I had never imagined that I will actually embark on journeys like what I did in 2019. I would go from Beijing to Russia. I would bike from Beijing to Russia. It never ever came to my mind, but it all happened because of fitness, okay? And in terms of new friends, I've already mentioned that I never imagined all these elite athletes and teammates and new associations I made. It would not be possible. By the way, it would not have been possible for me to be sitting here and talking to you if I was not fit, okay? So that's also a given. Otherwise, I would be just another guy on the street. And also, of course, new strengths, the confidence which we get, and then the ability to do new things. That's also something which is achieved. And all of this comes from what? It comes from fitness, being fit. Okay, so now quickly going to the next slide. Okay, so basically at the end of the day, we get the idea, okay, we were deliberating, can we do it? Can we? No, we can. We all can. And especially in this particular context, talking about the physically challenged audience and the caretakers for physically challenged audience, I have put together some of the sports which are practiced on an elite level. Although there's a disclaimer here. I am an endurance athlete. I'm an elite athlete. So some of the things maybe sound a little bit too far-fetched, but believe me, if you get your mind, you can, or you don't need to compete on an elite level, but you can just do basic stuff as well. Okay. So I'm just going to go to the next slide. These are some of the sports which are typical for physically challenged athletes, okay, or people, physically challenged people. So again, I'm not really going into all the sports which are, you see the logos here, but let's just look at some of the sports I enjoy and I do. I can't pick up all of them today because of time constraints, but I just picked up 3 main sports or 4 main sports, okay. So the first one is rowing. So as I mentioned earlier, I actually represent Hong Kong in single scull rowing. And there's a very comprehensive program for disabled athletes or disabled people who want to actually row in Hong Kong. And I want to showcase this. There's a small video snippet, which is the next video. And just to give you a background of the video, this video is from Korea. I am taking part in Asian Championships representing Hong Kong. And it was in, I think, 2019 or 2018. And actually, I did pick up the gold medal for Hong Kong in that particular race. So let's just quickly have a look at the. This is me. Yeah, the first one is me. Okay. Okay, so this was just a quick intro about rowing. Again, I gave a disclaimer. This is on an elite level, but anybody who wants to row from a disabled community, they can row, and they can row just like anybody else. Okay, so now next sport, which I'll show, is wheelchair racing. So I'm just going to give a very quick, I couldn't find a good video, but this is again a video of me, just to give you a very quick background that I worked very hard to include a disabled category into Hong Kong Marathon. And this is one of the first races which the disabled athletes took part into Hong Kong Marathon. And it's only a few seconds, most probably. You can just, it's the start of the Hong Kong Marathon for disabled athletes. Okay, so this was the first race, the first marathon where the disabled athletes actually took part in Hong Kong Marathon. And again, my disclaimer, this is on an elite level, but at the same time, anybody can do it. You don't need to be in a special wheelchair. You can be in a normal wheelchair, and you just go around a track or you go around your neighborhood and just for fitness purposes. So next video I'm going to be sharing with you is for hand cycling. And this is just one of my trainings on earlier this year in February, I think. I just picked up a training. Again, it's a little bit extreme, but you will get an idea And I really enjoy hand cycling because it's an inclusive sport. You can bike with anybody. And you can see that here I'm biking with an able-bodied cyclist and doing exactly what they do also, which is not, in this particular case, it's not that easy. So just quickly show you that. Okay, so again, in this particular case, it's a little bit extreme. So I did for 88 kilometers. The whole idea is inclusivity also. I was actually with the normal bicyclists, and we completed from Science Park to Chunwan West. And this is part of our regular Saturday biking. So it can all be done. Again, you don't need to do all of this extreme stuff. You can also do 5 kilometer time. It's already very good. So the last video which I'm going to share is something I'm very passionate about, is scuba diving. This is also a very interesting and very good activity for physically challenged people, because this puts you in, there's no difference between a normal person and a disabled person. You're in the water, a buoyancy, and you actually can do exactly the same thing as a normal person. So I like this sport because it puts me in par with everybody else under the water. And also just to give you a background, this is in Okinawa in Japan. It's a couple of years ago. And this particular video was specially filmed for an organization called IAHD, International Hand-in-Hand Divers. And that is why you'll see they're helping me many places, but actually you don't require help. But some particular disability, they require help. So they're trying to show that this is how they can help for people like me to dive. Okay, let's just go into it.
Tastes like yesterday, smoking on the porch. You know I hate it, but sometimes
Okay, so this was scuba diving. So now basically I'm going to conclude that at the end of the day, getting active, fit and healthy, it's not just about the body, but mind and spirit too. Okay, it's not just about yourself, but how others see us as well. Okay, it's very important. It's also, it's most of all, not just about achievement for rewards, but achievements for self as well. So these are some of the things that take away from being fit and healthy and active. And I think that concludes my presentation. And at the end of the day, we all can, definitely. I can't hear you.
Sorry, thank you so much for that fantastic presentation. I think it is so inspiring to see that there's so much of selection in terms of outdoor sports and well-being that people of all abilities can participate. I do have a quick question about this. What can people do to get involved? Like, what associations are there in Hong Kong for people to start getting involved? Obviously, you mentioned you're at the elite level. What about people who just want to start? How can they start to get involved?
So actually, for all the 4 sports which I showed, or activities which I showed, especially for rowing, there's a program available in Hong Kong for anybody. Anybody who wants to join, they can join, and they can. There are coaches who are well trained, properly trained, appropriately trained, who can take care of that. And in terms of scuba diving, I already gave an intro. There's an organization in Hong Kong. Actually, it's a global organization, but they have a chapter in Hong Kong also. It's called IAHD, International Hand-in-Hand Divers. And their main objective is to help physically challenged people to actually take them to the water and teach them proper diving. Okay, and then of course for hand cycling, there is not an association, but I'm more than happy to assist. Through the foundation, I'm more than happy to assist. And also for wheelchair, other sports like going out or hiking or some sort of activity with wheelchairs, etc. Again, I'm more than happy to assist and to figure out how to go around doing that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I actually do have another question. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can spotlight me as well, so it can be like a little discussion. And in terms of inclusive recreation, events for the whole family, I mean, is there anything that you would encourage parents who have young children who have special needs or disabilities on, getting their children involved in sports and different activities? What message would you have for parents?
Yeah, look, this is my experience. Okay, so I can tell you with a lot of conviction that my life, after I had my disability, my life before I took on sports was a very different life to my life after sports. It's a very before I took on sports, I got actively involved in fitness, etc. It was very limited, the scope, and it's a very limited life. But the minute I opened up, it just seemed that the whole world had opened up for me. And I had friends which I would never have thought of, making friends and activities and going here, going there, meeting people, etc. Which socially, suddenly the confidence level, which takes a hit when you are just sort of confined to your own small little things on a daily routine, suddenly you're opening up. And by the way, this is just not something only for physically challenged people. It's actually for anybody, because you see some of the, actually I have done a little bit of research on this. If you see some of the top business leaders, a lot of them are sportsmen. And it happens because they get a very different exposure. That's a very different exposure to various people from various walks of life and social strata, etc., which is important to build our confidence. So I think that's an important thing. If you can take your children and get them involved in sports or fitness, it's very important. Please do it.
That's a wonderful message. And obviously we will definitely share your foundation as the first contact point for parents to begin. I have one final question. With the current COVID restrictions, I know we're also sick about talking about COVID and the social distancing restrictions, but going outside can also be very tricky because there's obviously that added fear factor. So what tips or any advice you have for individuals or families who are trying to navigate well-being amidst everything that's going on?
You know, this is something more of a common thing, an understanding, because first of all, the government has their own protocol, you can say. They will ask you, you have to wear a mask when you go out, or stuff like that. So I would say that follow those rules. And when you are in crowded places, make sure that you are taking appropriate protection. But at the same time, I would also say, this is something I experienced, but I say that you take it at your own risk, that do not let COVID restrict you, that you are not going to do activities. You please go out, do your stuff, and but make sure that you are appropriately taking the appropriate precautions and measures. It's important. But the minute you let you down, then I think it's not easy to come out, because it's been going on for 2-3 years now, and you can't just continue letting it take over your life.
That is some very solid advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just will hold this session open just a couple more minutes to see if anybody in our viewers have any questions. You can feel free to type it into the chat. Okay, well, I think everybody's got the information that they need, but I would just like to take this time once again to really thank you so much, Ajmal, for this incredible, enlightening talk. It was, again, so inspiring to see you participate in all these sports that actually it's quite incredible that there is so much available in Hong Kong and around Asia. And again, oh, sorry, we have a couple of questions in the chat. Have you heard of Sailability?
Yes,
that's
I've
from
heard
Moy
of
Thomas.
Yeah, I have heard of Sailability, and the Sailability is a good organization which encourages, or actually it's a NSA which takes people with physical disabilities and teaches them sailing. That's also another organization which, or another sport which is people should get involved in if they want to get involved.
Wonderful. And then there's a question in Chinese that I actually can't read. So I'm going to switch to the Chinese chat just to hear Alan. Alan, yes, if you can read that question to me in English, and then I'll say it in English. Okay. So the question that is from TC is, how can we stay motivated to keep doing sports?
Yeah, this is always a difficult one, because actually you really need to have a plan, that what you want to do, and stick to that plan. And actually, as I mentioned during my presentation, this whole thing is a little bit of a chicken and egg, because you need to get to that point where you feel that you are doing something and something is coming in return. But to get to that point, it's hard work. It's not that easy to get to that particular tipping point. So I would say to somebody who's starting off, try to join an organization, try to join a gym, because then you have a support group who's helping you out to achieve those goals till you get to the point that you are independently active and you have achieved those goals and you know what is coming next and you can stay motivated. Yeah, definitely it's a problem to stay motivated in the initial stages. And as I said, join gym, join an organization, etc. to get over that.
That's fantastic. That brings us to the end of our presentation. It is now 3:45, so it is time for us to end. But Ajmal, once again, thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to type Yama's email address, hello@yamahk.org. Just get in touch with us and we will connect you directly to Ajmal and the Ajmal Samuel Foundation. Thank you everybody for coming. And again, Ajmal, thank you again so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Okay.